Mm. Good day, and welcome to another segment, Monday segment at that, of A Week at the Plot. I have cut that branch off the old apple tree. I had noticed a few weeks ago, you may remember, that there was a sliminess under the bark of that branch, and the bark seems to be getting wet and slimy and slipping um, on the actual branch. And as it's been drying up with a bit of drier weather, there is a wound being created. The bark is splitting. So clearly there's something wrong. So I have cut that branch off. And I've noticed, I'm not sure if you can see, in the middle here, there's a much darker area. So this is the branch that I've cut off. There's a much darker area there. And at the top here is an area where, again, it's dark. And that's an area where the tree has been injured before or had a disease before. It may be that the tree is getting to the end of its life. I'm not sure. But fortunately, I know a fruit tree expert who will be able to let me know what is going on with that old apple tree. I really hope it's not reaching the end of its days, because it's so glorious when it goes into bloom, which is maybe about a month or 6 weeks off at the moment, fingers crossed. It'll be interesting to see how much blossom we get this year. If that tree is diseased, it's obviously going to affect it in a number of different ways. And one way could be the amount of blossom that actually comes out. But you know what? I've taken photos. I'm going to send them off to my friend, and we will see what answers come back. In my research, i.e. Googling, it could be a root disease or it could be canker. So, but I don't know. As I say, I'm not an expert when it comes to fruit tree diseases. In fact, diseases as a whole, I know certain ones, but I'm by no means an expert. So that is done. I've done a bit of pruning of the smaller branches on the tree, and mainly taking away branches that are going to cross this year in their growth. So I've done that. Now I'm going to do the same with our rose. It's the white rose I'll be doing first at the front, which I think is iceberg. And yeah, let me just get on and do that. So I've given this a decent prune. Let's just move you down a bit. can see down here all this new growth coming up from the bottom. So these are really old stems of the roses. So we've trimmed the canopy back and thinned it out, making sure that we have cut out any dead or diseased wood. And also we've been looking at the direction of growth, and where there may be, like here, growth that is going to grow this year that is going to cross and start rubbing, we've taken some growth out to make sure that it's not going to rub, which will bring about diseases. There was a branch coming out here that we have cut off, giving easier access to this area, because under here where we've got the compost bags, this jumbo bag of white, which you can just about see, which is spent compost, or in fact compost from the old pallet bin compost that was here, that is going to be going in the next month or so. So we want to make sure we've got access to this area, so don't want a growth of a branch coming out here which is going to poke us in the eye. So I've cut that back as well. But the intention is to keep this growth down here nice and healthy so that it can grow up and start replacing these older branches that are up here. But having cut this branch off here and another one just at the back there, I'm going to leave this canopy as it is. It's just above head height, and see how these grow this year. I expect them to get up to about here. And then we can look at cutting these two branches back next year. So I've now finished the pruning of or what I think is the iceberg at the front, but the white rose at the front. I then went on and did the Queen Elizabeth, which is just next to the shed here. That's a pink one. Both of them are really old roses. They've been in there a long time. I have no idea how many years they have been in there. They're both pretty healthy and have flowered well for us since well, not just since we took over this plot, but since I have known about them, having had the plot next door, because they are on this plot here rather than the one next door. And yeah, I think by doing what we have done, we have taken their height down a little bit. We're allowing growth that is below to start growing and become the mainstay of the actual rose bush. And over the coming years, we'll be taking the height of the older wood down and potentially taking it much, much lower, or cutting it out completely. It's really important to look at your rose bushes or anything that you're pruning in how the direction of growth is for you. Because if you want something to grow in a particular direction, then prune it so that it is pruned to grow in that direction. The one thing to always look at is the direction of growth that is going to happen this year. And when you see a direction of growth going this way and a direction of growth going this way, and they're going to cross, then have a look at which is either the strongest or which is in the direction of growth that you want for this year and for subsequent years, and take the other one out. Stand back as well. You know, when we're in the middle of that pruning, what we can't understand is how it looks like from a bit of a distance. So always stand back, 6 feet, 10 feet, to see how you feel the shape of the whole bush is for you. And also another thing, never bring a branch down to you to snip, particularly if you're not experienced, because it's better to go in and make the cut. Because if you bring something down to you, unless you're careful about actually making sure you hold it, when you snip it, it could spring back. And that is not something that you want, because that springing back action could create a wound, or could create where you're making that cut to be a longer torn cut rather than a clean sharp cut, and obviously that allows diseases to get in. So where you can, go to where you want to cut things rather than bending them towards you. Obviously, if you've got a branch and you know that you can bend it towards you and do a snip above where you're holding it, and it's not going to spring back and you're not going to let it spring back, then that is a safe option. But never pull something back and then snip below it, because it will just spring back. So yeah, there we are. That's those roses pruned quite late in the pruning season. I'd have liked to have done them about 4 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. But you know what? The time wasn't right, and I didn't want to do it during all of that wet weather last week. So now there is that breeze, as you will have heard on camera, but there's no significant wet weather forecast. So by doing that pruning now, with the sun out and with a strong breeze, it's going to dry the wounds on the rose bushes. So where we pruned it, those are wounds. We wounded the rose bush. But that wind and that sun will help dry the end of the cuts that we have made to seal them up quickly, which is what we want. Right, I'm going to leave it there now. I will see you for another segment of A Week at the Plot tomorrow. Bye. Good day. Now I've sorted this one and this one. I'm going to start on this one and that one there. Fingers crossed I'll be able to get those done today, if it doesn't rain. That's the 2 end beds now done. Much more difficult, much more compacted soil with weeds. Oh, I've left a bit of weed on the edge there. It will need another. It's had 2 forkings over, but it will need another. Look, more weed. But you know what? That's great. This is where all of those perennial weeds have gone. That was maybe about a quarter full. And now you can see, having just done those 2 beds, it's now virtually full. But that's fine. That'll stay in there for many a year. Oh yeah, so pleased. Look, 4 pocket beds. Very pleased with that. You know what? I'm going to take the rope up. fabulous. That's the 4 bed extensions done, which I'm calling these pocket beds. Quite happy with the line down here. This one looks as though it's wider than it is. It's just scruffed up at the edge there. But yeah, really, really happy. Now, these two were so full of cinquefoil and couch grass. I mean, unbelievably. Some people say, oh, your grass paths are nice. In the summer they are. But they are ostensibly not, you know, lawn grass. They are couch grass and grass. They're sort of weed grass, but hopefully we'll be able to keep on top of them this year in a better way than we were able to last year. But these 2 beds that I've just done are definitely going to be forked over again, because they need a good bit of weeding, additional weeding, but that will be fine. So we shall get that done in the coming days. But for now, I'm going to go home and I'm going to have some lunch. And I'll see you again for another segment of A Week at the Plot tomorrow. Bye. Good day. And welcome to St. Patrick's Day, the 17th of March. And traditionally on St. Patrick's Day, an awful lot of gardeners and growers plant their potatoes. That's what we're going to be doing today in the raised bed where we had our fennel and some carrot and the parsley last year. I'll show you that in a minute. These are Colleen potatoes from Tamar Organics. I'm really pleased with the quality that we've received from them and also the packaging. They have been out, not quite chitting, but they have been out on our bench for a couple of weeks now. There are a few shoots at the top that you can see. And yeah, I'm just going to plant them into a hole in a raised bed like Dad used to do. It's worked well for us in the past, sometimes better than others, but always for us, always better than planting them into containers and tubs. For us, I think containers and tubs don't quite work. I know it works really well for a lot of people, but I'm always a bit disappointed with the harvest that we get from our containers. So this year we're going to be doing these Colleen early potatoes in a raised bed, and we're going to be doing our main crop potatoes in a couple of weeks' time in the ground. Right, let me show you where these are going to be going. I should say that this is going to form part of our grow along series, so there will be a grow along icon in the top right hand corner. This is the bed that the Colleen early potatoes are going to be going into. It had our fennel in it. It also had some carrots in, and then at the edges here, right at the top, you can see that there are still some parsley plants in there, which have all died back in the cold weather, apart from one just in the corner there. Can you see just here? I'm leaving that one to go to seed, but all the others I'm going to take out. Obviously, I'm going to remove the cuttings. I'm going to remove the elephant garlic, and I'm going to remove this cardboard. I'm not going to be planting through the cardboard. Let me get on and do that, and then we'll be back when the bed is clear. Having removed all the cardboard and also the parsley roots, which are down here. Interestingly, this side of the parsley along here had much bigger roots than the ones up here, like twice as big. quite interesting. Maybe they're slightly more protected, not sure. But following removing those, apart from leaving this one up here in the corner in for seed, I forked everything over to a fork's depth, and now I'm going to space out the Colleen potatoes so that I can start planting them about a foot deep. And I'm just going to do that with my trowel, digging a hole and placing the seed potato at the bottom of the hole. But first of all, let's just space them out. These are all now spaced out, about 18 inches between rows, and maybe a foot to 15 inches depending upon the size of the potato. Up here you can see that the potatoes are a bit bigger. This one is as well. So I've just got those a bit further apart, so I think I'm just going to move this one just a tad over. Yeah, but I'm happy with those. So now I'm going to start the very simple job of putting a trowel into the soil and planting these seed potatoes at the bottom of a hole, which is going to be about 10 inches to a foot deep, something like that. Job done. Oh, what a pretty sight. What a pretty sight, and what a great job to have done. That's our Colleen early potatoes planted. Yay! That bed has got such great soil in it. The texture of the soil, the compost within it is really excellent. It's now its 5th growing year for us, and each year we've added spent compost, and if we haven't been growing parsnips and carrots, we have been fertilizing it with chicken manure pellets, adding compost from our compost bins, and also adding a seaweed fertilizer. So now I expect those potatoes under the ground to start growing. They'll put their roots down and they will send their shoot up. And it's actually on the shoot that gets sent up, the stalk of the potato plant, if you like, that potatoes will develop under the ground. We will very likely mound them up as they grow. They've got about 10 inches to a foot to grow so far, but then we will add further spent compost or fresh compost as those shoots come through the soil to make sure that those plants, when they grow, are not bitten by any late frosts, should we get any, which is a bit unlikely, but who knows. And secondly, to keep that stalk covered up with compost so that more potatoes can hopefully grow off those stalks. So I will give it a good water every now and again. As I say, we'll add chicken manure pellets and seaweed fertilizer. I think we still got some, so we'll be adding that throughout the growing season. But we'll follow this journey through in a week at the plot, and we will soon, maybe in a couple of weeks, be planting our main crop potatoes, which are going to be sown a little bit more traditionally in trenches. We've got some growing space on another plot holder's plot to do that, and I will be taking you on that journey when we begin that one. Anyway, I will leave it there for today and see you again tomorrow for another segment of A Week at the Plot. Bye. Good day. As you may have gathered, we've had a compost delivery today. In fact, it's organic compost, organic soil improver, and mulch. So what that means is that I'm going to be able to mulch this bed over the coming days, which is great. I've noticed a couple of weeds coming up, and obviously I want to keep those down. So yeah, fabulous. Oh yes, I'm so pleased that that has arrived. The thing is, because of Compostgate last year and people not being able to get compost, but also because we want to try and move as many of our plot holders here to being peat free in their compost, we sourced the compost that you've just seen and also mulch from a company called Equigrow, and really happy with the quality of the compost, really happy with the soil improver as well, and the mulch looks great. I haven't had a good look at it yet, but the mulch looks great. But because of Compostgate and because of wanting to let people know that peat free is the best way to go, we decided to do a big order of compost and soil improver and mulch this year. And you know what, the take up on the allotment was really great. I think 40 plot holders took up the opportunity. You could buy one bag, you could buy 50 bags if you wanted. And the good thing is that the plastic that they come in is recyclable in our area. And also the wrap that the pallets come in, I can recycle with for Earth's sake when I next visit them as well. So that's really good. And of course we get free pallets, which have already been claimed by various people for pallet compost bins or other things. So it's really great. And Equigrow have been fantastic in the whole ordering process, because we needed to ask questions and things like that, because we weren't sure. It was the first time as a committee we'd done this. And then the delivery company, which I think is the Pallet Network, they came this morning, reversed all the way down a really, really narrow road, and were great. And the driver has an allotment himself in Hounslow as well. So we chatted about that. And he said, it'd be lovely if our allotment did this. So I think the general feedback that we've had from doing this has been really good. The fact that we can recycle the plastic is great. So I think it may be something that we look at doing annually. Whether we do them in the bags or whether we do them in jumbo bags, we'll determine that next year. But this was just a trial run to see how things went, and I'm really pleased that they've gone really well. So yeah, great. So look, I'm just going to leave it there today. A short one. I think Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday were quite long. So let's have a short one today, so to speak. Okay. Bye. Good day. So I've weeded the soft fruit bed, and then I've covered it in 2 layers of cardboard. Some places where there's an overlap, there may be 3 layers, but generally there's 2. And I'm now going to place the strawberries back at the front, and then start putting down the mulch that we got in bags from Equigrow yesterday. Excellent. Right, that's the job done. I appreciate this is a bit Instagrammy, by which I mean before and after shots, hopefully showing a big difference. But let's remember the work that has gone into this bed. We covered it over a year ago in 2 layers of cardboard. We let the soft fruit that was in there grow for a year. We then took all of that soft fruit out. Any soft fruit we were going to put back in here, we took right back to bare root to make sure there was no perennial weeds. Ones that we had in pots, we also did exactly the same, taking them back to bare root. Then we forked over this whole bed, which is, I think we said it's something like 3.6, no, it's almost 4 square meters in total, to a fork's depth. We weeded it and got all the perennial weed roots we could out. We then forked it over again and did the same thing. We then went over this with a hand fork on our knees, obviously, and did the same thing, making sure we got as many of those roots out as possible. We then put the clean bare root plants back in here, and then we top dressed it with chicken manure pellets. We let those melt, if you like, in over the past month or 6 weeks. And now that we received this mulch yesterday, we've covered it in 2 layers of cardboard and put on 7 bags of 40 litres of mulch. Now, the good thing is this is really fertile mulch. So I hope not only will it suppress weeds to a great extent, but it is also going to nourish the soil underneath it. The nourishment in this mulch, with the weathering it will have, will go through the compost and down into the soil below and feed the roots of these fruit trees. Fruit bushes, rather, not fruit trees. So, you know what? Yeah, it may look like an Instagram before and after, but there's most probably about 9 or 10 hours of work in this bed just this year. And I'm really, really pleased we've got this done. As you may have noticed, I haven't mulched underneath the strawberries. There's no point in that. So I put the strawberries down and then put the mulch on top. So there's obviously no mulch underneath the strawberries. The strawberries will be fed with chicken manure pellets as the season goes on. So there we are. That's it today for a week at the plot. And I will likely see you tomorrow for something else. I don't know what yet, but something. Bye. Good day. I needed to come down, and I do mean needed to come down, to put the peely scraps from our kitchen into the compost bin. There were 2 bags, the one that you saw me put in just now, and another bag which was quite a lot bigger that really needed to come down and go into the compost bin because it had been in our peely bin a tad too long. It had a certain fragrance to it. Anyway, it's been a busy week, so I've been meaning to come down and put it into the compost bin for, well, since maybe Tuesday, and it just didn't happen. So today it has happened, so yay! It's also gone on top of some cardboard scraps and some scraps of paper, so that's really good as well. And I'll put some more paper and some chippings into that, some wood chippings that we've got into that later on, or maybe tomorrow. I think I'll do it tomorrow. What I did notice today is that one of the broad beans that Vivi gave us and we put in on the 1st of January as plants, has started flowering, which is absolutely lovely. I don't think I'm going to do much more today. I'll mostly just do a little bit of weeding. I've opened the poly, as you can see here, and the seedlings in there are doing pretty well, all of them. Paravere parsley has still not shown itself, and neither have the spring onions. The spring onions, I'm not surprised at that. They can take a while to germinate. I would have thought the Paravere parsley would have germinated by now, but it hasn't. So let's see whether it does within the next couple of weeks. So that's it. I'm going to leave it there. I feel as though we've done quite a lot this week anyway, and there's some weeding that I do want to get on with, and a few things, small things, that I'll mostly get on with tomorrow. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I've said that 3 times. It's a bit like Sunday chat. See you again tomorrow. Bye. Good day and welcome to a brief Sunday update. I always edit the Monday to Saturday section on Sunday morning, so I know how long it's going to be, and at the moment I think we're about 45 minutes, so I don't want this one to be too long. But it's a lovely day down here today. It's really fantastic. The sun is out. You can see the sun is coming out at the moment. The colour changes when the sun comes out. And yeah, I've been talking to fellow plot holders, which is just gorgeous. Catching up, seeing how their weeks have been, seeing what they're doing, you know, what their plans are. And I've also been trying to see if I could find out where Fenella is at the moment, because I haven't seen Fenella brush or Felicity for about 9 or 10 days, which is unusual. And just as I was saying to somebody, another plot holder here, that I hadn't seen her, up she popped at the top of my plot, looking quite plump, and I think she's still pregnant. And maybe that's why I haven't seen Felicity and Brush very much. Maybe they've moved on. I don't know. Maybe I'll see them later on or during this week. Who knows? But yeah, it was great to see Fenella, and clearly there's another litter on its way, which is what we thought. So yeah, and look, red berries. What are these? These are actually from Asparagus. So these are the fruits, if you like, of the asparagus that a fellow plot holder has given me. They've overwintered now in his shed and are ready to be just dropped into soil and planted up. So I will be doing that, I think, next month as part of our grow along. They're such a gorgeous colour though, look at them. I mean, they really are. And what I'm hoping is that, as I've said, the asparagus in containers won't last as long as asparagus in the ground. They just do not have such a long lifespan as asparagus when it's in the ground. So what I'm hoping is, by sowing these and planting these up, I'll be able to grow these onto crowns at no expense, so that when it comes to replacing the ones that we have been bought that are now planted up in containers, we have fresh crowns to replace those. So that's my intention. Anyway, let's leave it there before I waffle on. You can see the sun, the clouds are coming in and out, and I go from being a sort of more orangey colour to a more grey colour, and that's because of our clear roof. It really does make a difference when the light changes that is coming into the shed. Anyway, stop waffling, Paul. I'll see you again for another week at the plot very soon. Bye.